distinguished ladies and gentlemen, young people, it's a pleasure for me to be here this morning to speak to you about youth employment. I want to thank Microsoft and IICD for inviting the ILO to come and share with you the kind of work that we're doing in West Africa with regard to youth employment. For those of you who might not know, the International Labour Organization is a specialized agency of the United Nations whose focus is on issues such as the ones we're dealing with this morning, employment, and over the last few years, employment focusing on youths, which is basically some of you. My office, as introduced eloquently by the Master of Ceremonies, is responsible for English-speaking West Africa, and that means we cover basically 5 countries out of Abuja, Nigeria. I'll speak to you basically broadly on youth employment issues, and I'm delighted to know that some of my colleagues who speak after me will touch the specific details that affect youth unemployment and employment in Ghana. But first, let me just situate and put in context the sort of problem we're dealing with here. Globally, the youth unemployment rate of those between 15 and 24 years reached 14% in 2014. And you must note here that this rate is actually 3 times higher than adult people. And this is expected to rise this year to 13.1%. Now, I must state here that in terms of the UN, a youth falls between the ages of 15 and 24. But we know very well that according to the AU Commission, youths can also be classified between the ages of 15 to 35. And I believe it's the same in Ghana. In Ghana, the youths falling between 15 and 35 years account for 34.1% of the total population. So that's a very significant proportion of youths who account for the population of Ghana. And looking at the employment rate is about 5.5%. That might sound to be very low, but I don't really want to go into how we work these things around because it gets a bit complicated and muddy. So, and of this 5.5% unemployment, those between 15 and 24 years make up 6.4%, and those between 24 and 35 years make up 4.4%, and this is according to the Ghana Living Standards Survey, whose report was published at the end of December 2014. Now, how did we get to this position? And I think some of the things we've been seeing this morning in terms of the challenges that youth face in accessing employment are real, and some of the things I might say to you, you actually know already. Obviously, the insufficient number of jobs being created in Ghana the jobs have not really met or not commensurate with the growth rates that Ghana has experienced in the last few years. So we are not getting as many jobs as we would have loved to get when you look at the GDP growth rates in the last 5 years, for instance. And also, when you're looking at the growth, for instance, or the introduction of the oil sector does not sort of create the number of jobs that would actually accommodate the number of youths entering the labor market on a yearly basis in Ghana. So that for us is a problem. Secondly, there's a whole issue of the skills mismatch. We do have a lot of youths leaving secondary school, leaving college and all that, but basically training and skills that the market does not desire. So one of the things that we're seeing in Ghana and the rest of Africa is the fact that we've got, in some cases, very highly trained youths, very good paper qualifications, but not getting jobs because the labor market or the private sector is not really looking for those type of qualifications or skills. So that also contributes to the whole issue of the escalating problem of youth unemployment, not only in Ghana, but the rest of Africa. The other thing which we've heard, I think, in the earlier presentation is the fact that not only youth do not only just have the right skills, but they don't have the experience. It's one thing to get a paper qualification, it's another thing to get the experience that you need to be able to get a job, be it with Microsoft or any other organization. So no skills or inappropriate skills and no experience. But one of the things we look at working as an organization always at the macro level is the fact that in a lot of these cases, we do not have the right policy environment in terms of promoting job creation, specifically targeting the private sector. There's a lot of things we can discuss about it, the right investment policies, the right tax laws and all sorts of things. So that's very crucial. And in some cases, when you don't have the right policies, some of these policies actually hinder job creation because private sector is not willing to invest to create the jobs because they do not see the right enabling environment. Now, given this framework of challenges faced by young people, what then can we do to remedy this situation? In the ILO, we believe that it's not just about the creating jobs in terms of numbers, but it's also about creating jobs in terms of quality. A lot of jobs that are being created these days are jobs, but do not qualify as appropriate jobs in our speak. And what do I mean by this? In terms of the ILO, we talk about decent work. Some of you might have heard this term being used over and over again. I think, in fact, only a few weeks ago, the president of Ghana, Honorable Mahama, was launching the national employment policy for Ghana, which we had a very important role in putting together. So when we talk about jobs, we're talking about jobs that have a fair income, security in the workplace, social protection for the families, as well as freedom of expression in terms of playing a role in contributing to decisions that affect you as the employee in the workplace. That's what a decent job is. A lot of these jobs we see in the street being created these days are short-term jobs, very low incomes being paid, no social security whatsoever. So that basically means that when you lose the job, you're back in the streets, you're back to where you started from. No improvement in your well-being. So that's what we look out for. It's not just the quantity, it's the quality of the jobs you're getting. A lot of African countries, Ghana inclusive, have very big informal economies. And a lot of our people actually work there. A lot of young people look at the informal economy as an avenue for jobs because they can't get a formal job. And if you look at the conditions under which a lot of young people work in the informal economy, they're basically, outrageous. They don't get paid anything in certain cases. They do not have rights. The occupational safety and health standards are poor at the minimum. So then, what can we do, therefore, in terms of trying to improve the situation? And again, I think all of us know some of these solutions. And I'll quickly go through it because I'm being flagged already for time. First of all, I talked about enabling policy environment. That's government's role. And I'm glad the minister is here, so they'll work on that. They need to address the skills mismatch. It's important that the private sector participates in training and they can contribute to the development of curriculums, which are basically useful, which are needed for the sort of people they're looking for. Focus less on academic qualifications, but more on technical and vocational skills. Second point. Effective career guidance. I think it's very important to be able to talk to our youths and guide them in terms of trying to choose what goes or what works for them. But also it's important to build capacities in training institutions. A lot of training institutions are training for the sake of training. The quality of graduates leaving the institutions remain much to be desired. But also an important point is the provision of sufficient information in terms of what opportunities exist. And I believe this is what TizaaWorks is all about. The whole issue about entrepreneurship, I think we need to move away from a situation where people train to look for jobs. We should be actually training to create jobs by starting on businesses. That's another thing I believe that's going to be talked about today. The whole issue of experience can be addressed through apprenticeships, placements in organizations. And I think the Ghanaian government is working towards that with some of its programs, such through the Youth Employment Agency. And lastly, I think there should be some information out there in terms of what opportunities are available, because only then can you decide as youths as what sort of path you should take in terms of progressing yourself in your career. So let me end there, because I was given limited time to talk about this. But if any one of you are interested, please, we have a website, www.ilo.org, which gives you the whole works in terms of what we do in terms of supporting governments such as the Ghanaian government on youth employment. I wish to thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.